Stephen asked me earlier, what's the talk about? And I told him, and he said, you rarely hear, I don't think you ever hear faith and equanimity spoken about together. And I was like, yeah, I'm being creative. But given the turmoil many of us are feeling in our country right now, around the election, around the state of our world, and not just this country, I think that faith and equanimity are really important factors that can help us get through these times of trial. And they're great skills to cultivate and to have in our back pocket at any moment's notice. I actually had to practice faith and equanimity on the way here today. I hit a pothole, and the right side of the front of my car decided to fall down, and I ended up having to turn around and go back and get another car that I drove here, which, by the way, is illegal, but I got here anyhow. So, I have to be really careful about what topics I pick. I say that all the time, but it's like, really? Really? Okay, I have faith that something will happen, and I have equanimity about the fact that right now I'm dealing with a car that's scraping on the ground. Anyhow, whether your life circumstances can't get any messier at all, this is what I had said before, and or they're going along beautifully, sometimes they're going along great. We need to, or they're neutral. Our practice is meeting what is, constantly meeting what is with openness and acceptance. And equanimity, like I had us do during the guided meditation, being equanimous with whatever sensations are coming up, with whatever the state of our bodies are. But what does that mean, meeting what is? It means facing our life head on. It doesn't mean kind of like, I kind of see what's going on. It's about turning our full attention to whatever is here, right now. Head on. Sometimes life is great and people like us, and we're popular and things are going well. Our car is not falling out underneath it, right? And other times they're really rough, and we think, oh, this can't get much worse. And by the way, don't ever say that. Because usually what happens is life will show you, oh yes it can, it can get much worse. I was talking to my first ex-husband the other day, and he reminded me of, he started laughing, and he was reminding me of the night that he came home and found me shaking and shivering and crying. I had the worst, I was a waitress, I was 18, 19 years old, and I'd had one of the worst nights of my life. A basketball team came in, a banquet that I was waiting on, they were all bossing me around and yelling at me and going, hey girl, get over here. It was a really rough night. But I was on E, so I stopped in this to get gas. And this was back in the day when you remember when you had to actually walk into the gas station and pay ahead of time? So I had to walk in the gas station and pay. And when I came back and started the car, there was a knife to my throat. And someone had snuck in my car and got in there and said, drive me to my car. I said, where's your car? And they said, I'll just keep telling you where to go. And I thought, okay, this is it. This is the end of my life as I've always known it. But he was really on some heavy-duty drugs, I could tell. By the way he was slurring his words and his eyes weren't totally focused. So I got him talking, I started asking him a bunch of questions. I had the wisdom to know I pulled in an all-night gas station while he was telling me his life story, and so I said, here's my witness. Get out. So I was able to get out. But then when I got home, I was fine going through the whole thing, but when I got home, I just started that, the shaking and the crying and the freaking out. But my ex reminded me of that. He said, anyhow, he started reminding me of all the different traumatic events that we went through. It's like, yeah, how did we survive that? How did we survive those rough times? And you can see it, you see it in our society. Look at President Obama. When he first came in, he was pretty high up with the approval ratings, wasn't he? And then he got pretty low, and he's been all over the place. But where is he now? Is he pretty high in approval ratings? Huh?
50%.
Yeah, so he came in at the bottom as far as our economy and everything, and now things are doing much better. But you see these ups and downs in life. And the Buddha and Buddhism called them the 8 worldly winds that we're all subject to. And sometimes these winds are really subtle, sweet, warm, loving winds, and other times they're like huge hurricane gale winds that'll knock you over. And of course, like I usually say, it's much easier to be with these winds when they're pleasant and beautiful and things are going great, and it's not as easy to be with them with faith and equanimity when they're the gale winds. So how does Buddhist practice help us meet these with faith? That's what I'll be talking about. And of course, equanimity, to me, equanimity and faith go together. So Buddha considered, he called faith saddha, S-A-D-D-H-A, and he had it in all these lists. It was an uplifting enlightenment factor, so if you can have faith, it'll help you reach awakening or enlightenment, along with joy and energy. They're uplifting factors. Besides the factors of enlightenment, faith is also one of the 5 spiritual faculties. It's one of the 4 streams of merit that'll bring you to awakening. It's also one of the spiritual powers. These are all the lists that faith is in. It's also on the list of wholesome mind states that you want to practice. So it's on 5 different lists, faith in Buddhism, so it's a big deal. It's often translated as confidence or conviction as well, not just faith. But faith in Buddhism can be hard to grasp if you try to bring your concepts about faith from other religions or traditions. In Buddhism, faith is a faculty that needs to be balanced with wisdom, discriminating wisdom. It's really important because it's not a religion. Buddhism is not a religion of blind faith. And it's not blind faith because with blind faith, there's no discriminating wisdom. Right? Without wisdom, faith becomes superstition. Because there's no foundation from which this faith is springing from. That's superstition if you have no evidence or no experience. Wisdom without faith becomes unwholesome cunning to justify the defilements, too. So you need to have them both together. And this type of discriminating wisdom that I'm talking about comes from experience. It's experiential. Right? So in our practice, we're growing, we're learning in our life practice and cushion practice. This wisdom is arising, and hopefully we're learning from our experience. Here's a quote from the Buddha. He said, "Wide opened is the door of the deathless." So the deathless is awakening or enlightenment. "To all those who have ears to hear, let them send forth faith to meet it." So I want to say that this faith is not faith that everything is going to be all right. Because everything is not going to be all right all the time. Right? The bottom of my car fell out tonight. My car's not all right. Right? This faith is not putting your confidence in an unseen God energy that's going to handle everything and fix everything for us. But it's the confidence that each one of us that can meet our experience with a certain semblance of equanimity and open acceptance. That's what this faith is. It's also the faith and the confidence in karma. That all of our past actions, every action we've taken has led us to the karma that we're experiencing today. That's what this faith is. That our actions have consequences and we're going to be living out the karma, not only individually, but as a group, we're going to be living out our group human karma. And can we meet our experience head on with equanimity, with acceptance? We may not like it, we may hate it, we may have resistance to this moment, but we can still face it with open acceptance. Okay, this is really unpleasant. Now I have to deal with the bottom of my car hanging out. Boy, I had no idea this was going to give me so much material. But this comes from our practice, this equanimity that I'm talking about. We're actually cultivating equanimity in our practice. Anybody here had an unpleasant sensation when they were doing the body scan? Yeah? Were you able to see it, be with it, accept it? None of you went running out of the room screaming, so I'm assuming you were able to at some level. So we're cultivating this equanimity, this ability to be with whatever's happening right here, right now. Brene Brown, we're reading her book for the book club right now, Daring Greatly. It's a really good book. But she said, only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of the light. So our practice calls us to open to our experience with exploration and discovery. Adrienne Mare says, things are not getting worse, they are getting uncovered. We must hold each other tight and continue to pull back the veil. So that's what we're doing as a group and individually, we're pulling back the veil. The Buddhist of this teaching was ehipassiko, which comes from come and see for yourself. Come and see for yourself. These practices call for methodical examination. I said that I called it medical examination Sunday. It's methodical examination. But this practice really demands methodical examination of what is here right now, what's true. Done regularly, Vipassana practice, this meditation practice, helps us let go of the veil of resistance and stress that we feel to unpleasant experiences, as well as the clinging or craving that we get to pleasant experiences. So what we're doing is we're practicing accepting things just as they are. Just as they are, right here, right now. Without fighting, without lamenting, without resisting. What happens is we develop wisdom. Are we going to develop wisdom if we're fighting the moment? If we're resisting it? If we're hating it? No, we're cultivating more resistance. But when we can open to it, wisdom can flow through freely in this space of acceptance. And ease and equanimity, too, with whatever is. This form of equanimity is sometimes compared to grandmotherly love. The grandmother clearly loves her grandchildren and is less likely to get caught up in the drama of her grandchildren like the parents may get caught up in. I really like that analogy. But most Americans really resist difficult emotions, mind states, and body states. I would say that probably most human beings. But I can't speak for a lot of other cultures. But mindful awareness, that's what we're cultivating here. And the kind of mindful awareness that we're hoping to cultivate is this warm, friendly engagement, this grandmotherly love, this engagement with the present moment. So it's not just about turning to our experience and accepting what is. Can we bring this warmth and gentle, caring attention to whatever is? So a lot of people misperceive equanimity as dry neutrality or cool aloofness. Like, okay, I'm just neutrally going to accept everything just the way it is. But mature equanimity actually produces a radiance of warmth and this caring and this loving attention. The Buddha described equanimity as abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So what's the role of our practice? We're sitting here, we're looking at the moment, we're developing curiosity about what's here, and we're choosing not to buy into the imaginary matrix that the mind creates through its mental proliferation. Have you noticed the mental proliferation? Anyone? We could have contests between whose proliferation is more creative than the next. But we're really good at that. But we're choosing not to buy into all of it. So in the depths of meditation, we're asking ourselves to be ruthlessly honest with what's going on, and radically skeptical of our mind. Don't believe everything your mind tells you, please. But the skepticism is not the doubting mind, it's not the hindrance of doubt. It's more about, okay, wait a minute, I want to see this clearly. Can I really look at the depths of this thought or this belief or this feeling or this emotion? Not the way I think it is, not the way I want it to be, but the way it actually is, right here. So it's the clarity of direct seeing, which is one of the levels, stages of enlightenment. You know, I noticed this really well, the mental proliferation of seeing things as they are. A few years ago, I was dating a new person. And I noticed myself in the